Welcome back to the VET S.O.S. podcast. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S. podcast. VET S.O.S. is brought to you by the Who You Know Network and proud members of the Parade Deck community. We are here today sitting down with Garret Biss, founder of Diamond Mine LLC, TEDx speaker and resiliency expert. Garrett's dedication to continuing to help our community is awesome. Can't wait to jump into this discussion with him and share all the things that he's got his hands into. Another day, another dollar. Keith, how you doing today?
I'm living the dream, and I mean, it's all about freedom. And I think somebody once told me that freedom costs $1.05, not $1. So, but no, it's great to be here, Sean.
So another day older and deeper in debt.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right, well, we got Garret Biss with us today. He's a retired Marine Corps pilot and dedicated advocate for veterans, specializing in mental health, resilience, and recovery coaching. After facing his own challenges with anxiety, depression, and addiction following his military service, Garret developed a unique approach to recovery that emphasizes self-worth, identity, and the inherent strengths veterans bring to the civilian life. As the founder of Diamond Mine LLC, he delivers transformational workshops and coaching programs, including the veteran-specific Valiant Path and Warrior Reset initiatives. A TEDx speaker, Garrett's thought-provoking talk, The Unspoken Trauma All Veterans Face, shares his personal insights into the struggles veterans encounter. Through his speaking, writing, and leadership, Garret aims to inspire veterans to thrive beyond military service. That's just outstanding, Garret. So happy to have you on here today. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm so grateful to be here. Sean, if you can just walk into every room before me whenever I go into a public place and provide that introduction, I think that would save me a lot of time in conversation. But...
Well, I don't know if you ever met Sean in person, but he's like 6'6", so yeah, he'll own the room and then give you that introduction. That's good. That's a great idea.
No, it's great to be here, guys. I appreciate this opportunity. I love the work that you're doing, and I'm glad to be a part of it for a few minutes here.
That's outstanding. And, you know, there's something to be said for entrance music just in general, right? You know, so it's I love the idea. Maybe I can turn that into a full-time gig, you know, where I get paid to walk into a room before somebody and just...
I like it.
Hear ye.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into your transition. How did your transition out of the military go?
Oh, it was fantastic, man. It was like rainbows and unicorns, and you know, I got out, and there was a black sedan that picked me up from the gate and took me off to happy futures and greener pastures.
Said no veteran
sounds
ever.
like there's a little sarcasm there.
Maybe a touch. Maybe that still lingers from the military service. I don't know. Unfortunately, my transition was very similar to a lot of veterans' transitions that I talked to. Felt very unprepared for it and very quickly began to struggle with a lot of things internally that took me quite a bit of time and a lot of struggle and a lot of suffering to really figure out what that was. I mean, you mentioned the TEDx talk I did last year, and that's really what it took me, about 7 or 8 years to figure out where the source of a lot of that pain and a lot of that struggle came from. And what became very clear to me, and how I now understand it, is when we transition out of the military, there's some fundamental basic human needs that we have for our emotional well-being. The way that we've come to meet those needs in the military is ripped away from us. I wasn't prepared for that transition, but through that process, what we lose is the way that we've met our need for connection. You know, we're biological creatures. We have all the same needs every other biological organism has for food, water, shelter. But as humans, we also, you know, we're tribal creatures, and we need to be connected. We need to have a sense of belonging for even our most basic survival instincts. You know, you think about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and at the very bottom is our basic physiological and safety needs. If we don't have a sense of connection and belonging to others, we can't even meet these basic needs. So this is what leads us to this high stress, this constantly, triggered state or commonly triggered state, very high stress, because we just don't feel that sense of safety and security anymore. You know the kind of bonds that we forge in the military. I mean, they're very unique, and they're unlike any other bonds that you'll form or experience outside of the military. Unfortunately for us, as we're in the military, I don't think we appreciate, we kind of take it for granted. We don't appreciate this sense of belonging and this depth of connection that we have. We kind of take it for granted, and it's a very abrupt and rude awakening when we transition out and we lose that sense of brotherhood or that sisterhood, when we don't have guys that are there for us, struggling with us, suffering with us, training with us, celebrating with us to the same degree that we had in the past. And that's really the just the start of some of the challenges of that transition, but it's at such a fundamental level that it creates a lot of the other challenges that we have. And then you exacerbate that pain with the loss of a sense of meaning. You know, a lot of individuals, we join the military because of that profound sense of meaning, of being part of something that's greater than us, serving a cause that's greater than us. When we're doing that with our fellow brothers and sisters in the military, it really creates this solid foundation for our well-being, for our resilience, for our mental wellness, for our health, for our ability to struggle and go through and survive difficult and challenging things. I learned from the work of Dr. Viktor Frankl that he says that meaning, or a sense of meaning, in many ways is what provides our capacity to suffer. So now you look at the average military or veteran transition, you have this strong sense of connection, you have this strong sense of meaning. Yeah, of course life is hard, of course you're doing many difficult things, but you have that sense of belonging, and you have this sense of meaning, which is not only providing your safety and your security from an emotional perspective, but also providing your capacity to do those difficult and challenging things. That we could survive, we could live through some of these difficult workups, we could live through these long deployments because there was such meaning associated with what we were doing. That's what provided our capacity to suffer. You take that uniform off, you lose that connection, you lose that sense of meaning, and in many ways we lose our personal identity as we begin to question, like, who am I? What's my place here? How do I fit into this new civilian world, or now this society that I'm a part of? And that's where a lot of veterans get lost. And just like you talk about drowning in that sea of transition, that's where a lot of veterans start experiencing many of those challenges, whether that's challenges that show up immediately, like it did for me, you know, this void that I felt inside, and this just confusion about the state of things and about why I was struggling. It didn't make sense to me. For other individuals, it comes after, 2 to 3 years when they don't get that call from the monitor and they're like, okay, wait, something's different here. You mean this is the rest of my life? But every veteran I've talked to has gone through some version of that identity crisis, of that loss of meaning, that existential crisis, and suffered consequences because of it.
That's a fantastic breakdown, and yeah, I'm glad that you obviously are where you are now, and all those trials and tribulations you went through in the transition led you to what you're doing, and the fact that you're continuing to give back to the community and help them learn from what you learned is going to be huge for so many. So let's jump into Valiant Path. To tell us this program, what it is, why you did it, give us everything you can about it.
Yes, sir. So fortunately, I found a journey, to a better place, and a lot of what I experienced, though I was struggling with substances and some behaviors that were very destructive in my own life, I didn't seek a traditional path to treatment. I didn't go after, trying to solve whatever this relationship was that I had with certain substances and behaviors. I felt in some way that wasn't the right path for me, and I was curious and kind of open, and fortunately I came across the work of somebody who became a mentor of mine, who helped me with this journey of first reconnecting with myself. And what I've really come to appreciate is that when we lose those connections with other people, when we lose that sense of belonging, it strips away our ability to, look like we just had a glitch, I'm back now. It strips away our ability, as we are in this fight or flight state, to foster new healthy connections. So we lose the connections of brotherhood that we have, and in many ways we start to lose connection with our true self, with our innate strengths or our innate worth, and this creates a challenge for us to foster those new connections. So through this work I was doing with my mentor, it was really focused on helping me reconnect with myself, recognizing my strengths, recognizing the innate wisdom and the worth that I had as an individual, so that I could develop the foundation to foster new and healthy connections with other people. And then finding passion, finding meaning in my life, realigning my life with my purpose. One of the most overwhelming things I experienced as I transitioned out was going from, kind of being on a railroad railway, knowing exactly what you had to do at all times. Like it wasn't easy to be in the military, but it was very simple. You always knew what you needed to do to prepare for the next deployment, to get the next promotion, to settle into your next duty station, or prepare for the next PCS. It was difficult work, but it was very simple. Now when you get out into the civilian world, it's like, what do you want to do? Because you can do anything. If you want to go start a farm in the Midwest, you can do that. If you want to travel the world, you can do that. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to go into this industry, there's so many options. And that the abundance of options can become very overwhelming. Well, it's easier to navigate that when you can connect with yourself, connect with the things that bring authentic joy to your life, the things where you find the greatest sense of passion and meaning. Because if we can do anything, we might as well do what is going to provide us the greatest return on fulfillment, on happiness, on joy, and hopefully financially if we get everything to align. But if we strictly go at, and I think we were prepared to think this way because we weren't told differently, but we were prepared to think, I need to transition out and go find a paycheck to replace the one that I've got. And if that's the only metric that you have, this leads a lot of individuals down roads that don't provide them that joy, that fulfillment, and don't meet some of those basic needs. So reconnecting with myself, reconnecting with what was true to me, where I could find the greatest sense of passion, this is the path to take to create a meaningful life. And as Viktor Frankl talked about, your capacity to endure suffering comes from your strong sense of meaning. So if you want to have the greatest resilience, if you want to experience the greatest levels of wellness and have the most engagement in what you're doing, it's very important to align what's true about you with what you're passionate about and chart a path forward. So and through this journey, I started studying applied positive psychology. If you're not familiar with the difference between traditional psychology, is usually defects or disorder focused. The traditional path is what's wrong with an individual, and then how do we fix what's wrong with them or help mitigate some of the symptoms of what they're experiencing. Whereas positive psychology really looks at the other end of the spectrum of what is right with somebody, what is going well in their life, what strengths have they exhibited in the past that have helped them overcome challenges and obstacles in the past. How do we focus on that and leverage the good things that are going that somebody exhibits to help them move forward to a better place? I often use the analogy of a hot air balloon. If we had an image of a hot air balloon and the altitude of that hot air balloon was representative of how well somebody was living into their potential for happiness, joy, success, and the altitude represented how well they were doing, if we wanted that hot air balloon to go higher, we could do one of two things. Either we could cut some sandbags and toss some weight out of the basket so that it will go higher, or we could put some more hot air in it. When I think of traditional psychology, I think of it as looking at those sandbags and the weights. What's holding somebody down? And trying to address that, whereas positive psychology is, how do we get some more propane in this thing? How do we heat this thing up so we can go higher? So I love, and that's really the vision that I bring to the work that I do, is how do we help somebody, how do I help replicate some of the experience that I had, focusing on the right things, helping somebody align with the best that is in them and get some clear direction on moving forward so that they can live the best expression of their life. This is something I want all veterans to do. I mean, anybody who raised their hand or stepped on the yellow footprints or stepped forward to serve their country and to invest in themselves into something that's greater than them, for a cause that's greater than them, developing the skills, developing that experience. I mean, traveling around the world in your 20s and doing just, extraordinarily difficult things and demonstrating so much potential, it tears me apart that these same individuals then are left to struggle with the burdens of their past without clear direction, with the loss of connection with their true innate worth and value that they have. And this leads so many people, whether it's in the pathway as an addiction, whether it's into incarceration, or whether it's just into mundane lives where maybe things look good from the outside, but they're really falling apart on the inside. I want to fix that for the veterans that we have, and try to reverse some of these horrible statistics that we're seeing about our veteran population.
So, speaking of being filled with hot air, Keith,
zing.
Yeah. No, what do you think, Keith? I mean, it sounds like a great program.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and I'd love to hear more. So yeah, I think this is a great program, and I've done some research into it prior to this episode, just to, so I'm not totally lost in the sauce and full of hot air, as Sean likes to mention. So I would love to just ask you to expand more on what people can expect in the program, right? Like the 3 C's, or at least what I was reading to be the 3 C's, like confidence, competence, and capacity. Can you expand more on that kind of stuff that you actually people can expect if they sign up with your program?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's offered in different ways. In the past years, I was doing a lot more individual coaching with it, and really just following this framework, taking a lot of inspiration from applied positive psychology and helping rebuild somebody, following that similar journey to myself. So developing the positivity and emotional resilience, being engaged with the strengths that we have. If we can lean into, I think if we want to live a self-directed life and really be in charge of our own life, there's 2 ways that we can live through life. One is we can live through very aware of our weaknesses and the defects that we have and the things that we're not good at, and we can live life trying to navigate around and not get into too much pain or not get into too much trouble by avoiding things that might provoke these weaknesses. Or we can be very in tune with the strengths that we have. And if we're in tune with the strengths that we have, then we can lean into obstacles, we can lean into challenges, we can go down the path that we want and have the right tools or be aware of the right tools to move forward. So positivity with emotional resilience, the engagement through our strengths, finding the relationships around us that will support us, being very, first and foremost, our relationship with ourselves. How do we view ourselves? Are we aware of and mindful of the things that we've done well in the past and the strengths that we have and the value that we have? Are we grateful for even some of the struggles or some of the defects that have shown up in our past, because it's helped prepare us or guide us towards towards a better expression of ourselves? And then the relationships around us, understanding that we're influenced heavily by the things that we consume and by those people that are around us. So how do we intentionally create the relationships that are going to help lift us up and support us in our journey and help us experience the life that we want while mitigating some of the negative pull or that downward pull? And then finding a sense of meaning. So again, finding what's true to you, not what the world says you should do, not not what the other expectations or what you think you should do, because that's going to be a great life, but what's true to you? Where are you going to find the greatest joy? And then with meaning, there's really so much opportunity to dig deeper into this. This is the work of Dr. Viktor Frankl. He created a field of study called logotherapy. And what we're finding now is that the applications of just this lens of meaning, or a man's or a person's will to meaning, is very profound, especially in the veteran context, because the sense of meaning is not just something that can be a North Star or a guiding star towards your life and help move you forward in a positive direction, but through a sense of meaning, as I already mentioned, it provides our capacity to endure the suffering that we might face today. So the struggle that we're going through today, if we have a tight sense of meaning associated with that struggle, it helps us contextualize and better understand the suffering so that we can thrive in it, not just try to mitigate it and survive. And then when we look backwards through this lens of meaning, we can find there's this whole field of study, and unfortunately it's not a term that's common enough, and we'll do our little part here today to bring this this term to our more common vernacular, but this term of post-traumatic growth. When we think of veterans and we think of challenges and adversities that they've been through or that we've been through in the past, there's so much focus on post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic stress disorder and the negative effects that it creates for our life. There's also there's an opposite side to that same coin, which is post-traumatic growth, which recognizes that there's growth that is possible not despite past adversities, but only because of past adversities. If we can look through our past challenges through this lens that, in many ways, the past challenges that we've been through have helped prepare us for today and give us what we'll need to overcome and survive tomorrow. So if we can associate meaning with adversities that we faced in the past, no matter how horrific the trauma was, if we can find what we gained from that, what opportunities became opened up to us, what fundamental changes have happened in our life, what base beliefs that we have that have been altered, that have created a new perception or a new field of opportunities for us. If we can look back at some of that pain and some of those traumas in the past, then this can alleviate some of the negative suffering that we experience and help us leverage our past journey to create the future that we want. So this is a big focus on meaning, and something I certainly dig into a lot, whether this is with individual coaching or some other ways that we bring Valiant Path out. But I'm really excited about this, about all of these people that are talking about it. And Sean, one of the organizations I wanted to mention here is called Boulder Crest, and they have a program called Warrior Path. And this whole program of Warrior Path, it's a 90-day program. I know you spend a lot of time trying to find and highlighting these key nonprofits out here that are really serving veterans for the right reasons, in the right way, and creating a positive outcome. So as a person who's been through Warrior Path very recently, I will give them a testimony that, yes, they're doing great work. They're a very valuable program. This is what their whole program, the Warrior Path, is focused on, is those individuals that are struggling from some of those negative symptoms of that post-traumatic stress, and helping them reframe it, helping them reconnect with themselves, help them reconnect with that warrior within, so that they can live that self-directed life moving forward. So great program. They offer it. It's free to veterans. Every expense is covered. They'll fly you to a 7-day retreat and then support you for 90 days afterwards. But great program, and it's also in line with a lot of the work that I do. Unfortunately, with the number of veterans that we have out there, there's going to have to be a lot of dogs in this fight to help provide what we need to and what we should. for the veteran population. So I'm excited that there's a lot of different paths to this. Warrior Path is a great one. I give them my highest recommendation. And then the work that I'm doing, either individually with individuals that have struggled with addiction, veterans that have struggled with addiction, or some really limiting behaviors, or what I'm really excited about is I was invited to develop this into a curriculum for Chatham County Jail down in Savannah, Georgia. They have a lot of veteran inmates that come through, and they have an opportunity to spend 6 weeks with them. I was like, this is perfect. So we've worked together to develop a curriculum with this, bringing this whole PERMA model, or this positive psychology model, to veterans, so that they can kind of, retool themselves a little bit, alter their perspective, take some of the challenges that they faced since they transitioned from the service, find the gems in them, and put together that self-directed path towards a better place. So I'm excited for this opportunity because, we're looking at some of the veterans that struggle the most. I think that's a fair place to start. So whether that's with addictions, whether that's with legal challenges, and what can we do, what can we share with them to help them bring the best of themselves that they've already demonstrated. They've already shown the strength and the resilience and their creativity and their work ethic before. They just need a proper framework to apply those same things to live their best life as a veteran. So individual coaching and then some programming and curriculum that I'm developing are ways that we're bringing this Valiant Path to our veteran community.
That's fantastic. And you're not the first one to mention Boulder Crest either. We've heard that before, so definitely an organization we got to get on here. Keith, what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that you're pitching other organizations, right? Like it's the community mindset, and that you're selfless to that fact that you genuinely just want to help the community.
There's a lot of us out there. Was it not 18.5 million and 200,000 more every year, 250,000 more every year? So I know my own limitations too. I can't serve all of us. I just want, at the end of the day, I want every veteran to get to that place that they should be. I think that where they're living their potential, they're living a life filled of joy and purpose and meaning, and they're not just battling ghosts and demons from the past. I mean, if we've invested the time in them, if they've invested in themselves to serve our country, then I think we can all do better. So it's going to take many organizations, and we'll reach as many as we can, but I absolutely highlight other organizations that are doing great work, because we all need it. Now that I've taken off the Marine Corps uniform, I can recognize other service members from other services that are doing great work, and I've got no problem highlighting them.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I love the aspect. I kind of do it when I'm mentoring service members as well, right? Like that whole adage, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's garbage. I hate that phrase. But you're hitting on the important aspect of, if you do love what you do, you don't even have to work as hard at it to have greater results. And this also this aspect that you can be, you can be more resilient. You can have, you can grow even from the trauma you've had, and taking that mindset of, let's find what you're passionate about. Let's give you that meaning, and then grasp and get a hold of the what you've experienced and let you grow from that aspect. No, it's absolutely great stuff. So we're almost at time, and I just have one more question. Like, what would you say, or what advice would you give to the organizational level stuff, right? The folks that because the veterans, we tend to feel misunderstood in the workplace, right? So from your perspective of where you're coming from, which I love, what do you think are the most common misconceptions, and how would you encourage organizations to bridge that gap?
I think first and foremost, and this is the reason I'm so excited about the TEDx I had the opportunity to do last year, is just understanding veterans from their perspective and what are the challenges that they're going through. It's really easy to cast labels. It's really easy to talk about how veterans struggle. But take a moment. I mean, I boiled it down in 10.5 minutes. Take 10.5 minutes, or play it on 2 times speed. Take 6 minutes. And just listen to what this experience is. And the way I understand the experience, when we transition out of the military, we lose that sense of connection. We lose our authenticity, which is also extremely important for fostering connection, because as we come out of the military, very quickly we realize, all right, we're cut from a different piece of cloth, and there's some things that are true about me that very quickly become apparent that those aren't as acceptable or socially friendly in this new environment, whether that's the sense of humor, whether it's the level of intensity, but there's certain things about us, and all that goes to further eroding that sense of connection that we really need. and then the sense of meaning. So I think if we can look at the veteran transition through this lens of they've just spent their entire adult life learning to live to meet their basic fundamental human needs for connection, authenticity, and meaning through this one lens or this one perspective, these are the things that are missing. It's not, unfortunately for a lot of veterans, there are some battlefield traumas, there are military sexual traumas, there are some other things that they experience that they're going to be dealing with. But let's look at it through this lens, because this is how we understand how all 200 or 250,000 veterans have some form of this struggle as they transition out. And now let's, one of the presentations I'm doing here in a couple of weeks is about, it's called The Veterans Lost in Translation. And it's how do these strengths, how are these character traits that serve them in the military, how are these lost in translation as we get out? So how can we take that same attention to detail, which is maybe a little overly intense in the civilian population, and map that same strength or that same innate value that we have, but map it to a new context? How do we use that to foster better leadership skills, or this, a healthier attention to detail, maybe in a little bit less aggressive of a way? But there's many strengths that we have. How can we understand those? And how can we, as as managers and leaders that hadn't served, how do we understand that so that we can help veterans? Because that's the thing. I mean, there's so many veterans I've talked to that feel so underutilized in their civilian world. Maybe they did go out and they found that six-figure job, but I talked to one guy. He was like an E7, an E8, working on a bridge on an aircraft carrier, and have tremendous responsibility. And now he's like making PowerPoint slides and Excel spreadsheets, and he has to run every decision that he makes past like 3 managers. And he's like, "What the heck is going on here? 10 years ago, I was in charge of $1 billion worth of machinery halfway around the world, and here I am." So there's a lot of challenge with veterans being underutilized, and I think if we better understood the veterans, understand some of the struggles they're going through so that we can meet them there, we can support them, but then also understand, like, how do we tap into some of those strengths that they haven't been given the opportunity to map those strengths to their new position? How do we kind of pull that from them and help apply it to the organization that we're with?
That's awesome. And time has flown. We are at time, Garret. I am so sorry, but I do have 2 more questions. One, what is harder, landing a KC-130J in a crosswind, or navigating the VA benefit system? And then second question, how can people reach out to you to either sign up for Valiant Path and gain the benefits of the program, or to support the program? How can folks get in touch with you?
Yeah, so first question, they elicit the same emotional response inside, I think, sometimes, where you pucker up, you don't know if this is the end of it. So have a good co-pilot is the best way to land a C-130 in a strong crosswind, and, having a good co-pilot is a veteran. So find some other veteran that's at least 2 steps down the road past you, and leverage their support. People can find me on LinkedIn's a great place to find me. I'm the only Garret Biss on LinkedIn. If you want to learn anything more about the Valiant Path, or about some of the presentations I've been doing in the mental health world, or about this new curriculum that we're developing for the jails, which I want to expand, send me a message on LinkedIn. I'd love to get connected. And for anybody, so one last thing I want to share, but first I've got a resource. If anybody's interested, if you're like, oh, this stuff that Garrett's talking about sounds a little interesting, I want a little taste of it, go to thewarriorreset.com. And there's a free guide that you can download. I give you 4 daily practices that you can do. It takes less than 10, 15 minutes a day. And you can just get a little experience of this shift of, let's look at what's right with me, and how does it leverage, or can I benefit from being more aware of that. My last message for any veterans that are struggling, that are in that dark place, or going through a difficult and challenging time, know this first and foremost, that you are lovable and acceptable just as you are. That there might be some pain, there might be some challenges you're going through, but you have an innate worth. You are lovable and acceptable regardless of what you've experienced, and you have value, and you are deserving of living the life full of love, full of joy, full of happiness. There's tools and resources and other veterans out there that can help get you there. Just know that you are worth it, and we want that for you.
Wow. So that was a powerful ending right there. And I love the answer too. Like, I asked you a joke or a question in jest, and you gave like one of the best transition answers. Like, it's still valuable for people to hear. Find a battle buddy, find a co-pilot, find a mentor. That's amazing. All right, I'm full of hot air, as Sean said, so I hijacked a little bit again. Sean, you want to have the final word, Jerry's final parting word before we go?
Oh, man, we're good. Garret, great stuff, man, and thank you for all the work you're doing to help our community.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate
stuff.
you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It was absolutely awesome. So, and for everyone listening, on behalf of the VET S.O.S family, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. VET S.O.S is growing and spreading its wings. You can follow us on all those social media platforms. You make sure to check us out on all 4 of our shows now. Follow and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts from. We're on YouTube, Reese Across America, Parade Deck, and all those other goodies out there. And as always, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S lifeline.